Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are going to react to the San Francisco 49ers 22-16 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers in primetime Sunday night football at Levi's Stadium. And look, as San Francisco advances to 5-4 on the year with a Seattle loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Germany, San Francisco now sits just one game behind the NFC West division lead. They're now 3-1 at home this season, and right now, things are looking up for the San Francisco 49ers. To think this team was 1-2 earlier this year, at a certain point, it felt like that this team was kind of, not to say in the dumps, but a team that we kind of all questioned, who really are you? And I think we found out not enough, not a lot, but we did find out a little more as to what this San Francisco 49ers team will look like going forward, and maybe have figured out something that I really has been bothering me the past few weeks and really the entire season as to how serious are the Niners as contenders. So we're going to dive all into it right now, starting with that first quarter at Levi's Stadium, because that first drive by the Chargers had me nervous, to say the least, right? And that first drive, Herbert went down 4 for 4, scores a touchdown pass, and I think, like myself, many other Niner fans out there were like, oh, that's the performance the defense puts up following a bye week, following getting guys like Alshire back, having another week for Jimmy Ward to not have a cast on his arm. That's the scheme you put together. That's the performance that you're going to have be your first showing post-bye week. And luckily things tightened up much later in the game, but that first drive had me thinking, is this going to be the Falcons game all over again? Is this going to be a day where San Francisco should win, they're supposed to win, but they just come out and they play flat? It kind of felt as if, or at least the initial thoughts were, especially because the defense gives the opening touchdown up, then the offense comes out and they methodically march down the field. They ran it 9 times on their first drive, settled for a field goal, made it 7-3, and then Shanahan calls like 5 draw plays in a row into the heart of the defensive line. And I don't think I'm alone if I say that there was a point in this game early where I questioned if that bye week did come too soon. That did it come at the wrong time, where maybe there wasn't a bye week in week 9. They carry over the momentum from the Rams game. They play the Chargers at home. They're feeling themselves, and they don't have the week to take off, right? Because sometimes after a bye week, you can kind of get unfocused. You can think of non-football activities. You can, I don't know, your mind can just go elsewhere. And because your mind goes elsewhere, your body might go elsewhere. And your performance might change. The way you play might change simply because you're not locked in 24/7. And I do think that was a big part of last year, right? That was a big part of that amazing stretch down the end of the year where it was every single game mattered. It kept this team locked in every single day, where even despite a bad play, a bad loss, they could not afford to give up any more ground, and it kept them going and going and going. And so at a certain point in this game, I did wonder that maybe the bye week did come at a wrong time for this team. Then Ayuk fumbles, and then you're like, oh my goodness, the Chargers are somehow going to go up 14-3 in this game. Now, thankfully, for as bad or as inconsistent as not good, for lack of better terms, that first couple drives were for San Francisco's offense, the Chargers missed a ton of opportunities. There was a handful of plays in this game where the Chargers either had a receiver wide open and Herbert missed him. There was a play to Josh Palmer where Herbert overshot his man with the Noren coverage, and that could have been a touchdown, could have made this game 14-13. And so that was one instance of many where LA had San Francisco on their heels, had an opportunity to overtake San Francisco, or at least push San Francisco early in this game, put their backs against the wall, and make it not impossible, but again, make it kind of shock your system where it's like, we're not supposed to be down. How are we down? Our quote-unquote star players aren't performing early in this game. We look slow. Maybe the bye week was at the wrong time again. There was a certain point in this game where I think everyone kind of said, oh boy. And then the offense goes 3 and out, and they're down 10-3. San Francisco's had 3 drives. They've settled for a field goal for their first drive. Then they fumbled on the second play, or the first play of the second drive. Then LA couldn't put up a touchdown, 10-3, and San Francisco goes 3 and out once again. And look, there was a point in this game where San Francisco was starting off slow, and you can slowly feel them getting momentum, right? I mean, the box score tells a very different story. Elijah Mitchell, 18 carries, 89 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 14 carries, albeit 38 yards on the ground. He also had 39 yards through the air, but he had 1 touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo had 1 touchdown on the ground. Deebo Samuel ran the ball 4 times. Like, this team ran the ball 41 times for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a slow offensive day, but that is what I think everybody expected, or at least I expected to happen against the Chargers. A slow, methodical game. Now, I did expect more explosive plays, and that's what was happening early. It was, they were getting, 3 yards a carry, but they just couldn't get that first down. They couldn't get that big play to spark them early in this game. It took a Jimmy Garoppolo QB sneak touchdown to get them in the end zone for the first time. It took them late in the game for McCaffrey's first touchdown in this game. This was a lot of game played either for San Francisco in the red zone and a lack of getting in the end zone, or for the Chargers, this was a game kind of played at midfield where San Francisco's defense played well enough and tightened the screws up in that second half to hold them, because there was a time in this game where it very easily could have gotten away from San Francisco. So it's 10-3, and I'm sitting here thinking, look, San Francisco has Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell back from injury, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, the best left tackle in football, right now having a Pro Bowl season, Aaron Banks at left guard. You got the freaking buffet of offenses, and instead of picking the steak and the ice cream and, maybe the honey walnut prawns or whatever you like at a buffet, you have so many options, so many ethnic food groups, so many variety of desserts and breakfasts and lunch and dinner. There's so much variety, so many ways to hurt a defense. But it felt like Kyle Shanahan and the offense was just that ham and cheese, the good old piece of white bread, 1 slice of ham, 1 slice of American or cheddar cheese, and maybe some mayonnaise. It felt very plain. It felt very vanilla because it lacked explosion. And what is the one thing you think of when you think of Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, who's having a great year, Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey? You think of explosion, bang, bang, bang. That's what you think of. How, like the home run play is available to you by every personnel player on the field. Like, every single weapon you have can hurt you in some area. So then, again, you got the buffet, you're eating freaking ham and cheese in the corner, and it's like, can someone do something? Like, why are we paying Deebo Samuel big money? Why are we paying George Kittle big money when they're doing nothing? Now, it isn't to say that you do not have, or the Niners, every NFL team has games like this, where it's a grind out, maybe an unexpected opponent plays them tougher, and you just have to escape with the win. But it's because this year has been so up and down roller coaster ride that it does make you question actually how good this team is. And so San Francisco's down 10-3. Defense forces a 3-and-out. They get the ball back, and the offense goes 3-and-out. They get their freaking punt blocked. And can we just discuss how bad San Francisco's special teams, at least the blocking unit, has been for punts and kicks this year? I believe that's their third, if not fourth, blocked field goal / punt this year. And it's funny because I'm not going to pick on Oren Burks because he's been relatively good this year for us, whether filling in for, a starting linebacker or, being a part of that special teams unit. But he was brought in to specifically improve the special teams unit. Guess who got blocked into the kick, or guess who got blocked and was, for a weird word to use, penetrated by the defense? It was Oren Burks, and it was like, dude, isn't this supposed to be your job? Now, again, I'm not going to pick on him, but it just kind of made me laugh, where it was like the special teams player, the person you brought in to specifically improve that unit is the one that gets beat on this play. Then for the Chargers, Dre Greenlaw blows coverage, and McKinney drops a touchdown pass. And you're like, dude, like, how many times at this point in the game, I tweeted out, I said, at what point does San Francisco's either luck run out or they decide to play up to expectations? Because the expectations are at the least top 10 offense, playoff team, if not top 5 offense, Super Bowl contender. And they were playing like a number 7 seed in this game at the beginning of the game. Later it changes, but at the beginning of this game, they felt like a team that was just going to skate in. And they were getting lucky left and right. I mean, Herbert was avoiding sacks. They got Palmer for a near touchdown. Hufanga was in coverage. Ward's in coverage. But then the defense comes up big once again, makes a huge stop. And then you're sitting there thinking, okay, like, San Francisco has to do something. San Francisco literally has to get some points on the board, right? Like, at what point do we sit here and say, we're going to lose? We don't know. And so it's 3rd and 12, and San Francisco is down 13-3. It's almost halftime, and you can't go down at halftime 13-3 at your own house. Or in this case, it was going to be an opportunity for the Chargers to get the ball back and maybe score again. Like, this game at a certain point could have been 20, maybe 16 at the best, 16-3, 20-3 at halftime. And big kudos to Jimmy Garoppolo here, because on a big 3rd down and 12 at your own 23-yard line, what does he do? Goes through his progressions, hits George Kittle over the middle, 21 yards. Kittle gets 9 yards of yak, and it gets you near midfield. It really saves this drive for San Francisco. Then that next play leads to the Jimmy to McLeod off schedule play. McLeod for 33 yards goes out of bounds. Then there was a penalty, was declined obviously, but there's 2 back-to-back game-saving plays, momentum-saving plays from Jimmy Garoppolo in this game. And I am so, like, what we're seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo this year, to some it might be the anomaly, it might be the outlier, but to me, this looks like, and I believe Joe Staley said this, and I think after the Seattle game, we kind of all hinted towards it, was that it looks like Jimmy Garoppolo's playing more free. It feels like the restraints of, I'm under a 5-year contract, I have to, mold to Kyle Shanahan's system. And while some of those restraints are still there, it does feel as if Jimmy G maybe feels the pressure kind of off his shoulders, where he no longer has to be that franchise quarterback for anybody. He can just play for himself. He knows that, or the likely answer is Trey Lance will be the quarterback next year in San Francisco. I think we'd all assume so. Jay Glazer said today that Trey Lance is still going to be the quarterback next year in 2023. But for Jimmy G, there is no pressure of I have to be the guy. I can just win games and play freely. And I do think we're seeing that, and I do think that the McLeod play is one of many other plays this year that you can point to and say, he wasn't doing that the last 5 years. Maybe it was injuries or the scheme, the play calling. Who knows? We'll never know. But Jimmy sees the play breakdown, scrambles to his left, off schedule, hits McLeod over the defender, a big 33-yard gain, sets it up for San Francisco to get in the end zone. He scores his only touchdown on the ground in this game, and the team ends up winning the game 22-16, and Jimmy Garoppolo goes 10-2 as a starting quarterback with no passing touchdowns. I mean, we know that Jimmy Garoppolo is this kind of mythical creature of quarterbacks where he can have 150 yards passing, no passing touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns, and somehow they still win the game. And it's like, well, he's the guy, they're winning, and like that's the effect he has. And to a certain point, you can say, look, that's great. Like, but that wears itself thin. And I do think that's where the fan base was in 2020 and 2021. But I do think this year we are starting to see a shift towards appreciating what Jimmy does. And on Jimmy's side of things, it's not just the fan base. He's doing things that we haven't seen him do consistently before. Like, I think Jimmy's always had the clutch gene that kind of escaped him in 2020 and 2021. But we did see some of that magic against the Rams late in the year, Week 18, and other plays scattered throughout the season, that the Bengals game, of course, in Cincinnati last year. But I do think that we are seeing a more consistently big play throw Jimmy, where game on the line, I may not pick him out of Mahomes and Allen and Kirk Cousins maybe, and Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, but I think he's playing better than most people, at least name recognition-wise, you would list ahead of him. Like Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray, I'm still leaning Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, that isn't to say that he's a better quarterback than them in the grand scheme of things, but right now, he's the best quarterback in his division, and a year ago, I don't think anybody would have said that. And that's kudos to him for kind of changing his game a little bit, where, again, we don't know the exact reason why, but Jimmy does feel like there is not a new Jimmy, but it just feels like that everything that may have been holding him back, whether it was personally, in his own head, the scheme, it does feel like that there is no longer pressure on him outside of the normal go win us the game, where he can trust Ayuk now, who it seems like he's building a ton of chemistry with. 4 straight games, 81 yards. A should have been touchdown in this game. Like, there were so many missed opportunities for the Chargers in this game, but there were so many missed opportunities for San Francisco in this game. I mean, when Ayuk dropped that touchdown pass, and I get it, he had a good game outside of that, but he fumbled, and then he dropped the touchdown pass, and it was like, oh my God. Like, you're building on to something, you're building momentum coming into the bye week, and again, like the defense early in the game, this is the performance you want to put out there, and the issue is that nobody was getting open but Ayuk. It was Mitchell and running with McCaffrey, and then Ayuk in this game, and Debo was a non-factor. Kittle was a non-factor outside of one play, which was the big third down catch we already talked about. But it just felt like that there was so many missed opportunities where it was like, you have everything you need to succeed, but you're not doing it. And that's what makes these games so frustrating because, yes, they won. And Jimmy G said it best himself. He was asked, what do you say to people that would complain that the offense didn't perform up to expectations? You didn't put up 30 points. And he said, we got the win, right? Now, obviously, he expanded, but that was kind of the initial, the initial takeaway was like, we won the game, didn't we? Which that should be the common, common consensus opinion of, well, they won, okay? They didn't win pretty, Sometimes you have to win ugly. Out in the East Bay, they have the team called the Ugly Eagles. They ain't the pretty Eagles of Clayton Valley. They're the Ugly Eagles of Clayton Valley. Sometimes you got to win ugly, right? Sometimes it's not going to be pretty. Sometimes it's going to be 9-0 in Washington in a mud bowl. Sometimes you're going to lose to the Bears in a monsoon. Like, those things happen, and that doesn't excuse some of these things, because going into the second half, again, they dropped the touchdown pass. Ayuk does. Got to get a field goal. But then that's when things started to flip. And the entire Niners team, the offense kind of spoke on this in their post-game pressers, was that while the Chargers' missed opportunities kept San Francisco in this game, because this game could have been a lot worse for the Niners, equally, the Niners' missed opportunities kept Los Angeles in this game. And now you can argue that if the Chargers had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and had Rashawn Slater and Joey Bosa and J.C. Jackson, they'd probably win this game. And to that, I'd say you're probably right. The difference is they didn't have any of those guys, and San Francisco won. Now, that doesn't mean that San Francisco can play like this all year long and just be okay. People on Twitter were saying that, San Francisco has the stuff to go all the way this year. Like, if they play like this, gritty and hard and run the football, they'll go all the way this year. And my reaction to that was no. That you may be able to beat a team like Philadelphia, who just lost their first game of the season to the Commanders, when the Commanders ran for 130 plus yards and they ran 40 times. That's something Kyle Shanahan would like to do every single game. Control the clock, run the ball 40 times. We know this. But that's not going to help you beat, let's say, I don't know, maybe a Dallas Cowboys team. And I'm not saying San Francisco can't beat them. They beat them last year. Cowboys are the Cowboys. We know that. But come playoff time and going against an explosive offense that's healthy, it's not going to be that simple. What if the Bucs get healthy? They're explosive. They can't run the football, but they can pass the ball at will. You think playing like this is going to help you beat the Chiefs? Beat the Bills? No, that's not the case. Now, the elements are there to be that team. Jimmy's playing very well. Ayuk's having a really good second or third season, Trent Williams is playing great. Aaron Banks is playing pretty well. Like, the offensive line was good. Maybe outside of McGlinchey, who every single time he was against Khalil Mack was on skates, going backwards like he's, in the Christmas Story, sliding around like, oh my God. I was just like, dude, like, plant your feet and block somebody for the love of God. And again, the elements are there. And Kyle Shanahan spoke about this in his post-game presser. He said that, for myself, it's like I lost my leading rusher. They traded him, Jeff Wilson Jr., to the Dolphins, and I brought in McCaffrey, but then I'm also getting Elijah Mitchell back, and then I'm getting a healthy Deebo Samuel back, and I have Ayuk and I have Kittle, and it's like I have this new box of toys on Christmas morning, and I don't necessarily know what to play with first, or it's kind of like when you're a child again on Christmas, where you have so many toys and you're like, I have no idea what to do with myself. I don't know how every toy can play together. Like, I was someone who liked to play with Star Wars and G.I. Joe and Power Rangers, and sometimes as a kid you have all those toys in a box and you want to have your G.I. Joes and your Power Rangers and your Star Wars fight each other. And you're like, but I have all these toys that don't match up. They don't make sense. It's a bunch of different kind of discombobulated pieces that aren't cohesive. And you're trying to mash them all together. It doesn't make sense. Again, you're at the buffet and you got the crab legs and you got the chicken chow mein and you got the ice cream and you got, the ham and cheese sandwich still. And you're like, how do all these fit into one meal? And really they don't. But how are you going to make that meal cohesive? You have all the ingredients to make that perfect dish that you want to eat, that Kyle Shanahan wants to scheme for. But this game may have just been the building block game, the kind of tested out game. Now, you can argue that you had the whole bye week. What the heck are you testing out? You had the whole bye week to put this scheme together, and you only scored 22 points. And there are plenty of times you were in the red zone, 5 times in this game, and you scored twice. There's no excuse for that. And guess what I would say? I agree. Because the play action was not working in this game at all. And there was a time late in it, and I mean late in this game, where it is 16-13 going into the fourth quarter. And San Francisco has to score. Has to, or game's over with. The Chargers looked cooked. They were tired. They were old. Maybe not old, but in game-wise, it felt like LA had given San Francisco their best shot early. And they couldn't hold up. They got worn down. Right? But that last drive, really the best drive of the game, I could argue, for San Francisco. It's 13-16, and San Francisco starts on their own 23-yard line. Bang to Deebo Samuel. Juwan Jennings, a big third down catch. Like, in this drive alone, Juwan Jennings was almost the MVP of the game. He essentially saved this drive, this game, for San Francisco. Third down catch on 3 and 5 at their own 28-yard line. Then you go to 2nd and 20 at your own 29. Juwan Jennings, 12-yard catch, 5 yards a yak. Other than the 3rd and 8, the very next play, Juwan Jennings for 10 yards, first down. Gets them to their own 41-yard line. Elijah Mitchell, a big run for 9 yards. Mitchell again, and Mitchell again, Mitchell again, McCaffrey. Then Garoppolo to McCaffrey for no gain. And you're sitting there, and it's 3rd and 10. And you go, okay, what's going to happen here? Jimmy hits Ayuk for 24 yards. Huge play. Huge play. Gets him in at the goal line. McCaffrey puts it in the game. Or puts it in the end zone, excuse me. Like, it was not like anything was coming easy. They had some big chunk plays in there, but Juwan Jennings has essentially been Kendrick Bourne in that drive alone. He was a player that comes up clutch on 3rd downs and gets first downs. Like, Juwan Jennings was a game saver. Him and Jimmy essentially put that game on their back. They put the game on their back in that last drive of the game. And look, since 2021, Juwan Jennings has been targeted 27 times on 3rd down. 20 receptions, converted 18 of them for either a first down or touchdown. He is Kendrick Bourne. Like, the offense did just enough in this game. Got over the edge, got over the hump. But still, it just felt like it. Now, I have my exact tweet in front of me. It's 3rd and 9, 5 minutes left. Jimmy throws that ball to Ayuk on the right sideline. And my exact tweet was, oh my God, ballsy throw, little dangerous, and a great physical catch by Ayuk. I go, that makes up for your fumbling your drop touchdown earlier in this game. 3 minutes left, 3rd and 13. And I'm sitting here saying, we're only up. We're only up by 3 points. It's 19-16. McCaffrey's touchdown could be nothing in this game. What does San Francisco do? They run 7 plays in 4.5 minutes, and with 3 minutes left, they give the Chargers the ball back. I mean, the Chargers have essentially 2 minutes and 10 seconds with 3 timeouts. But then guess what? Boom. Punt. An amazing punt. 1 yard. At the 1 yard line by Wisnowski is worth every single penny. Samuel Womack catches the football. But even then, I'm sitting there saying, we literally are giving an elite top 10 quarterback, top 8 quarterback, roughly 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes to go out there and put up 3 points. It's not like it hasn't happened before. And because of every missed opportunity early in that game, whether it was the Chargers not scoring touchdowns, Ayuk's fumble, the red zone efficiency being atrocious in this game, Whether it's Kyle Shanahan doing freaking draw play shotgun runs in the red zone on 2nd and 3rd and 4th down. They do not work, Kyle. For the love of God, stop. They didn't work with McKinnon in 2020. They didn't work last year with Mitchell and Wilson. And they haven't worked this year, especially in this game. So you give them the ball back, and it's just like, oh, like, please don't score, God. Please don't let them score. We have to win this game. We had a bye week, but we have to win this game. We cannot lose. When Seattle lost, and the Eagles have now lost, and the Cardinals have just won. They beat the Rams. They're 3-6. San Francisco can separate themselves another game from the Cardinals, an inch closer to Seattle. We have a 3-0 or record in the division. Like, we can't lose this game. And then thankfully turnover on downs. But then you're sitting there saying, cool, it's 1916. We have the ball. Go down there and score a touchdown. Step on their freaking throat. And what do? 4 plays, 6 yard. Mitchell, run for 6 yards. Mitchell, run for 1 yard. Mitchell, run for -1 yard. Go for the field goal. I have no complaints at going for the field goal. My biggest complaint is that San Francisco this year can do all the work. It's kind of like, and maybe it's, my experience, but it's kind of like the friend that can do all the smooth talking but can't close when talking to the girl, right? Can't get her number. San Francisco can march from the 1 yard line at their own red zone to the 99th yard line, to the opposite 1 yard line in Chargers territory, and they'll run it 4 times and they'll get negative yards or get stuffed 4 separate times. And it's like, at some point, just do a freaking shotgun pass and let Jimmy, who's been really good this year, do his job. Or, here's a better idea, do what worked earlier in the game and just freaking QB sneak it 4 times. Jimmy's averaging like 3 yards per QB sneak. Just QB sneak it 3 or 4 times, get in the end zone. No one can stop it. I mean, you watch Josh Allen almost fumble that game away against the Vikings. How many quarterbacks this past week in Week 10 fumbled doing quarterback sneaks or got stuffed doing quarterback sneaks? You know who doesn't get stuffed? The QB sneak god, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, you're right there at the one. They know when you have McCaffrey in the backfield that you're going to run it with him. I've often wondered that why isn't George Kittle ever used as a running back or a fullback in certain cases? And I understand in the red zone you want him to be a passer, you want him to block, kind of be the extra offensive lineman. I understand that, but like with all the weapons you have, especially in a goal line situation, wouldn't you want to have every player that could hurt the defense on the field all the time? Now, I get guys need rest. I'm all for McCaffrey and Mitchell splitting carries. Like, they got the exact same amount of touches. I'm fine with that. McCaffrey has injury history. So does Mitchell. Just keep them healthy. It's better that way, right? But at a certain point, when the game's on the line, when you're at, scoring is not easy in football. Not at all. And with this Niners team that has had a hard time scoring consistently throughout the entirety of games, when you're in the red zone 5 times, you have to score. They scored twice. Imagine if they had, they could have had an extra 21 points in this game. This game could have been somewhere between 35-16 to 43-16. But it was 22. So whether it's Shanahan, whoever it may be, I mean, he's making the choices, the decisions. So if you're in the goal line, I want to see Debo and Kittle and Ayuk and McCaffrey and Mitchell and Juszczyk on the field all at the same time. Make the defense have to guess who's going to get the football. And guess what? You do your best job to make sure you can pick the person they're not going to get the ball to. Good luck, defense. Good luck. You can't do it. You cannot guard 7 offensive weapons that are Pro Bowl level at the worst every single play. It's impossible. That's what made, and I get it, very different styles of offense, but that's what made the Chiefs so dangerous. You can't guard Mahomes. You can't guard Tyreek Hill. You can't guard Kelsey. And probably a better example is the Saints for a couple years, or even the Patriots. How can you guard Brady and Welker and Moss and Dante Stallworth and Kevin Falk and Corey Dillon? You can't do it. That's why they're one of the best offenses of all time, because defenses had to say, anybody can hurt us. So why not in a situation like this? Would you not want everybody that can hurt the opposition? But alas, they won 22-16. And look, I have to give a ton of credit too, because DeMeco Ryans in this game, of all the talk from Robert Saleh of can he make second half adjustments, I think DeMeco Ryans has shown time and time again that he can. That in this game, when the offense or when the defense isn't getting, gashed, but like I said earlier, the Chargers have missed plenty of opportunities to be up by 2 touchdowns, if not 3 total scores. So what DeMeco Ryans did in the second half should not go unrecognized, because he was amazing. In the second half of the Niners versus Chargers, the defense only allowed 3 first downs, 17 rushing yards, 7 completions for 35 yards, and the Chargers' 52 yards gained in that second half was their lowest output in a single half since week 8 of, guess what, 2007. 2007. 15 years ago. And that's with top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I get the Chargers are banged up, but at what point do you not see that this team, Bosa had 9 pressures, Amenahue had 6. Amenahue has been phenomenal this year. I mean, he has been the ardent key of this year for San Francisco. He had 1 sack, 6 pressures. Charles Amenahue is second on this team with 4 sacks this year. He doesn't even start. He has been found money. DeMeco Ryans, again, the way he blitzes. There was a time in this game where you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, look, someone for, whether it's the defense or the offense, somebody for San Francisco has to make a big play. Whether it's turnover, whether it's a big sack, and what happens? Well, DeMeco Ryan says, dial up the blitz, we're coming, honey, and you can't stop us. Warner gets home, Hufanga gets home, Bosa gets a TFL. DeMeco Ryans was in his bag, and really he has been almost all year. Outside of 2 games this year, DeMeco Ryans has been in his bag every single game. Take out the Falcons and Chiefs games, and I get you can't do that, but if you want to use the injury excuse, by all means, go ahead. I mean, this defense has looked phenomenal. DeMeco Ryans is the best defensive coordinator in football. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. He is my number 1 defensive coordinator in football. He's gonna be head coach, and rightfully so. The only way he's not a head coach is if he says no again, which I don't think he'd want to do. And before we go, I want to give credit to plenty of other guys. When Jimmy hit Ayuk over the middle on that 3rd down late in the game to set them up for the go-ahead score, the go-ahead touchdown on Christian McCaffrey's rushing touchdown. Daniel Brunskill, who has been in and out of the lineup because of Burford, because of injuries early this year, he has looked, or in this instance, picking up the blitz. I mean, blocks the guy coming to his right, pushes him off, goes to his left, blocks the guy, buys Jimmy time, hits Ayuk over the middle. It's that stuff that should not go unrecognized. Where a guy who essentially is not a starter, was last year, is splitting reps with a rookie and asked to play split reps and usually in more pivotal veteran player times, you'd want him in there. He comes in there, and he does something like that. Again, Juwan Jennings, 3 huge catches, 2 for first downs. Kept drives alive. Jimmy G, again, was great in this game. He had some weird plays early where the ball was kind of coming out weird, but he threw the ball away 3 times. When does he do that? He doesn't do that. Despite how inconsistent and undisciplined this Niners team was, they won the game. They came out on top. That's all that matters, right? And going to their team stats, you can see it right here. They held the ball for 13 more minutes than the Chargers. They outgained them by 149 yards, had 10 more first downs. They had 1 pick. Penalties, 5 to 1, 52 yards to 5. That's not great. And part of me does believe that, and somebody asked me again today before I recorded the podcast, they asked me and they said, hey, look, what was your biggest takeaway from the game against Chargers? And I said, we have all of the ingredients for a huge and long, sustainable playoff run. It just felt like that this was the first day, the first game that Kyle Shanahan had all his toys and didn't know what to do. This was the feel it out game. And I am fully expecting this offense to be more explosive, to have more creativity behind it, to not be vanilla, to not be the ham and cheese offense that I talked about earlier. It's going to be the buffet offense. You want to know why? Because it has to be. If I told you I was going to give you one of the best offensive minds in football in Kyle Shanahan, a top 5 offensive weapon in football in Christian McCaffrey, if not the best, one of the best running backs in football, Elijah Mitchell, who was this team's leading rusher last year, he was 1,000 yards last year. Then Deebo Samuel, who had an all-pro year last year, I get it, hasn't been the same guy, but he's getting back there. He had some touches late in this game were big. Didn't get called, the face mask wasn't called on him. Like, he had some important plays in this game. You had George Kittle, who was always in big moments coming up with 1-2 big plays. And you have Ayuk having a great year. How does that not work? It's like putting a puzzle together and saying, the picture's ugly. Yeah, but does it fit? Do the pieces fit? Yeah. But to me, this is a puzzle that all the pieces fit, and the end result is going to be something special. Now, how long does that last? I don't know. Does it last 2, 3, 4 years? I'm not sure. But I do think that San Francisco right now, despite the ugly loss, or win, excuse me, not a loss, despite the ugly win, despite all the missed opportunities, the turnovers, they are 5-4. And they're traveling to Denver, then Mexico City to play the Cardinals, I guess, although they are the home team, to play the Cardinals with a chance to get the division lead. I don't know how this team with these players doesn't come up big in that spot. This is a team that they know they've underperformed. They know that they should be so much better than they actually are. They know that the missed opportunities, the loss against the Bears and the Broncos and the Falcons, those things can come back to haunt you. That's why I believe they're so motivated. I do think that Kyle Shanahan will tighten the screws. I do think that, again, you can't waste this Jimmy Garoppolo, who, despite being 9 for 28, was house freaking money on third downs. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo on 3rd and 8+ yards, 6 for 7, 90 yards, 4 first down, and 118.8 rating. This season alone, Garoppolo has converted 45.2% on 3rd and 8+ yards. second best to Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying Jimmy's Mahomes. I'm just saying you cannot waste this Jimmy. And Jimmy right now is elevating people around him. And I do think now Kyle Shanahan having the full buffet of offensive weapons will do the same. And I do think that they'll meet and surpass Jimmy's play level. This team will catch fire. Now, I don't know when. that could be in a few weeks. But with this team, the way they played against the Chargers, while I do not think it's sustainable, I do think it is the tipping point for them, where they've already had their 2 get-right games. Now this is their, we already are right. We've already gotten right. Now we're going to stay right. And we're going to win ugly games. But we're also going to win pretty too. And I just think that many fans are waiting for more pretty wins like the Panther game and the 2 Rams games. And they're coming. And I do think they may come as early as this Monday against the Cardinals. So stay tuned. We'll preview that game earlier or later this week, and we'll see. It's no Zach Ertz, tore his ACL for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray may not play in Mexico City. We shall see what happens as the week progresses. But if you want to go to that game, you want to go see this team play the Bucs, the Dolphins, the Saints, all at home, you're going to want to use that promo code 49ers Access at SeatGeek.com. Save yourself $20 off your first purchase again at SeatGeek.com. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the Twitter. You can also use our Fanatics link down in the description. It's the holidays. I know you or your friends or your family, they want some San Francisco 49ers gear to celebrate Christmas. Maybe it's a birthday. Heck, maybe it's the new year. Use that link down in the description. Support the podcast and get some Niner gear for yourself, for your friends, or your family. Celebrate the holidays right with some San Francisco 49ers gear from Fanatics.com. And once again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. And until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett. This has been the 49er Access Podcast, and stay faithful.